what's up, Zach here, and today I've got the all-new 361 Degrees Biospeed BB. And thanks 361 for sending me a pair of these to check out. However, this video is not sponsored. As always, all opinions, good, bad, and indifferent on these are all my own. Now these things, like the leaning ultralight, to me are like, how far is 361 going to take running shoe technology into the basketball arena? Like this thing really blurs the lines between almost a super shoe and a basketball shoe, and it still retains a lot of the best properties, of a basketball shoe. So starting off in the uppers, number one, you get what they call this Z thread, but it's basically just a bunch of TPU woven mesh in different directions. You got what looks like TPU cabling going all the way through the shoe, and that's interwoven with that TPU mesh you can see on the microscope. Then going into the tongue, it's basically just a different orientation to that. Now going up the lace line, they're all integrated lace eyelets. You do not get a runner's knot in these things, but if you look at the inside of the heel counter, you'll see you actually get these two pods right on both sides of your Achilles tendon, which actually do have some texture to them, right, to hold you into the shoe. And the rest of the heel counter, it almost looks like a Cottonelle commercial, right, on the microscope, and just to touch and to feel and to look at. And the padding and the material in the heel counter on these is so comfortable. It is the most comfortable fabric I think I've ever felt on the inside of a shoe, basketball, running, whatever. And then, like I said, you've got these, more textured pods here. So the heel slippage on these is still none to mild. And if you put an orthotic in there, it's mild, right? So it's really, they're just using the padding in the shoe versus the runner's knot. Still would be nice to get a runner's knot, but that's here nor there. You do get a gusset on the tongue, and that tongue does have another layer of underside padding and then a third layer of padding on the most proximal aspect of the tongue and then going down into the top of the foot. So lace irritation, if you catch the laces in the right spot, you're gonna get a little bit of irritation. Like on my left foot, I had it worse than on my right, where I didn't really have any irritation. So I think just kind of messing with where you crank the laces down and you should be just fine. And lockdown's gonna get better and better and better as you break the shoe. And remember, there's a giant TPU bar that goes all the way on the lateral side, then goes around the heel counter, right? There's a ton of paneling and a ton of stitching of these thick panels everywhere. So once it breaks in, it's gonna envelop more. These things in the breathability test, like I said, I have been doing the breathability test a little bit different recently. I've been taking the average of two spots in the shoe, the highest temperature as well as the center of the shoe simultaneously. So that number is going down a little bit, but still these things have been the lowest of any shoe I've recorded doing that new test. And that only comes in at 77.35 degrees. You can see on the thermal imaging, the whole shoe's heating up, the breathability mapping, fog's getting out of everywhere on these things. It's a super light upward shoe, right? This really relies on all the cabling. You can see on the lace on the inside, there's cabling that goes down into the strobo board, that thin TPU cabling that goes all the way through the shoe. That's what these things rely on for stability in the shoe, and it just basically relies on its engineering, right? Not necessarily the bulk in the uppers. So looking for a breathable product, yeah, for sure, this is it. Now, these things on the upper durability test, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper. And yeah, I mean, the burr doesn't really make it through that top drag guard there, which is pretty nice. Now, obviously you do have exposed midsole foam a little bit. That's just gonna get rocked, from dragging or sliding. But if you're a true toe dragger, you actually do get quite a bit of outsole tread that comes up over there. So in terms of dragging or sliding, I think as long as you don't go really medial, honestly, they might start to look a little bit weird in the uppers, but you probably will be okay. All right, beginning in the midsole teardown, this is another entire bed of CO2 infused thermoplastic foam, that's CQT foam. It does have a sandwich shank that goes from the midfoot all the way into the forefoot. That is the one thing I did forget to mention in the upper section, that you do get some bending and snapping of the uppers because the midsole does not bend like some other shoes do in the forefoot, right? It's got a lot more resistance there. So all the uppers are bending, the midsole's not, so that's where you get a little bit of bending and snapping there. It gets better, it breaks in, but I forgot to mention that in the upper section. I look at this thing on the bounce height test, 42 centimeters in the rear foot and 42 in the forefoot, which I thought was really interesting because in the rear foot, you don't really have any influence from the shank, whereas in the forefoot you do. So I thought that's kind of cool to see how kind of ended up getting the same place, which was fun. Like the Team Joker, this CQT mixture, it is not a squishmallow. Like, it does not squish in your hands, right? It is not like a super, plush, pillowy thing here. It is responsive, it is springy, it feels like a trampoline. So, I mean, when you're out on court, these things are bouncing to them. It's crazy, these things. It reminds me like the Way of Weight 11 and that kind of configuration of midsole foam. It is just, it's got some violent bounce to it, which is really cool to see. So with the shape of the outsole on these things, taking that into consideration, they just have yeah, just quite a bit of bounce, quite a bit of spring, and just quite a bit of launch to them. And yeah, some of that's from the sandwich shank going into the forefoot, but a lot of it also is just the actual composition of the midsole foam. All right, but getting into the outsole tread, I think we're gonna start to see a lot more of this in this year and the next coming years, and that is a PU outsole, so a little bit of a different compound of outsole tread. This basically is just triangular patterns going all the way throughout the shoe. It does have micro gridding on there, so the tread is actually stamped with more texture for more grip. These things on the grip test ramp don't slip till 40 degrees. If you look at these things from the bottom, they definitely have a nice little angle of ascent in the forefoot. You know, the rubber rolls on the medial side, on the heel as well as in the forefoot. It's a more flowing outsole tread. It is not flat to the ground, right? It is not like a stability focused outsole tread. It is much more meant for easy transition step. It's basically following that quick, what is it called, a quick bone, or the carbon fiber shank. Both that carbon fiber shank and the outsole tread, it's kind of following that angle of ascent, that really gentle rise into the forefoot. And so in terms of speed going front to back, I mean, these things are just ridiculous. Number one, super bottom light feeling, right? There's lighter shoes. And with everything they're giving back to you, this is by far one of the fastest shoes in the market. Look at this thing on the speed ratio. And given that I had to give it a 0.25 because now with the shanks that are sandwiched, I'm giving them just a 0.5. They're not top loaded, but they're not bottomless. I give them 0.5. That bumps this thing up to a 3.53. And yeah, I think that's exactly where it belongs. These things, number one, with a lot of other PU outsoles, they don't pick up as much dust as others, right? So, I mean, these things are sturdy in terms of grip. The lateral flange, I mean, there's really, it's there, but it's not much, but it does have the TPU bar that comes around it. So stopping power it's better than I thought it was gonna be. It's still not a stability focused shoe, right? Especially because the rear foot also has an inflare. We'll talk about that in the fit section. So yeah, I mean, they're meant for speed for sure. If you're bringing the stability to the shoe and you know, you play up on the balls of your foot and you play a little bit more in that big toe joint, right? Like, you know what you're doing, you can definitely get rapid fire side to side speed in these. I mean, they just bound from step to step. Step backs are so easy in these things, even for someone like me, you know, just kind of lumbers out there. And so, yeah, I think number one for anybody, front to back speed, insane. And I think for the people that, like I said, can really play on that big toe joint, right, can really kind of get that feel, I think then you definitely get that side to side speed as well with these. These things on the outsole durability test, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper. Yep, burr basically just cleans them off. Remember, the durometer only it comes in at 14.7. You know, these new compounds, the durometers aren't getting all that high, but you get a lot of the benefits of a soft, more gripping rubber, but also all the benefits of a super hard durometer rubber that's gonna resist wear. So in terms of what courts these would be good on, I think you can play on outdoor courts with these, even with a low durometer. Number one, same as the Team Joker, it's how the outsole tread is aligned, it's how they wanna be moved. You know, it's because they transition steps so easily. I think you're fine. I think if you drag and slide a lot, you're probably gonna wear off that micro gridding. But if you're not a huge dragger or slider, right, you have more ballerina or ballet type footwork, I think then honestly on outdoor courts, they should be okay. And with how light they are in the uppers, how breathable they are, and how protective the midsole is, to me, this is a great outdoor product. All right, but getting into the fit of the Biospeed BB, you're gonna have to pay the piper at some point, and this is where you do. Number one, it has a 12-degree inflare in the forefoot, which actually isn't terrible. It actually looks a lot more than it really is. And that's because the rear foot also has an 8-degree inflare, so it looks more like an arc. That's what I mean in terms of stability, right? It's an inflowing shoe, right? There's not a lot of flat places to place your foot, so you have to bring the stability of these. If you can, like I said, you're gonna do really well. Now, these things have a resting everted position of 1 degree, and on loading, they go to 9 degrees. And as you can see, it's because of the rolled rubber, right? It's just how the orientation of the shoe. And even though you've got that carbon fiber shank that's going all the way from the midfoot to the forefoot, with what the shape of the shoe is and how that shoe allows movement, that carbon fiber it's just going along for the ride. The shoe's just gonna allow more movement. Like I said, if you can use that to your advantage, right? If you're someone, like I said, plays up on the balls of your foot, can use a lot of that movement, that's fantastic. And also that's kind of how it allows a little bit more stability against ankle sprains, but just know it's definitely not as stable as other shoes where, as like, you know, I'd say a middle of the road everting shoe, you know, it'll go from like 1 degree to 3 degrees or 0 to 3. A little bit more goes into that 5 or 6 territory. A really solid shoe either will allow like 1 degree or none. So like I said, just keep that in mind. Some people are gonna be able to use that to their advantage, some are not. These also come in at 28.7 centimeters in length, 9.9 centimeters metatarsal width, 10.8 of toe box width, and then a toe box taper of 27 degrees. So honestly, they're a little bit more generous in the metatarsals than I thought they were gonna be. I'd say the thing is they lock down so well. And if you wanna get weight reduction, I think a narrow foot can go down a half size. I think a medium and 2E just go true to size of 4E. You can go true to size in these as a 4E, but remember, it's the same thing as some other 361 degree shoes. They have wide numbers, but it's the inflare. So if you don't match the inflare, then you're gonna have to go up a half size. So I'd say if you're a 2E that doesn't like those inflares, right, go up that half size. If you're a medium, doesn't like an inflare, go up a half size, right? Like I said, I would say kind of see how you fit into other 361 degree shoes and how your foot matches up with that inflare, because there are some people that do not like that in terms of, you know, their foot matching up with their kind of quote unquote true to size type fit. So I'd say anybody but a narrow, I'd say narrow still, if you're gonna do anything, stay true to size. But if you've gone other 361 degree shoes that have, you know, a little bit more of the inflares, like I need to go up that half size in them, then by all means do, because some people just do not fit with that profile. Now, in terms of people I'd be recommending these for, people that want speed, people that do not mind the E version of these. Now, obviously they fit orthotics, but it's still going to allow right? Your posterior tibial tendon, right, is the tendon that holds your arch up. One of them holds your arch up, is the main one that holds your arch up. That is going to start to feel that with that E version, right? So if you stay up on the balls of your feet, if you like that feeling, right, of getting all that feel underneath the ball of your foot, right, all of that pressure underneath the ball of your foot, and this is going to be fantastic because it also springs back to life so well. So if you're staying up on the balls of those foot, you have that real, like I said, ballerina type footwork, then these are gonna complement that so well. Someone that's trying to protect the ball of their foot, right? Someone that maybe likes to play up on the balls of their foot all the time, but maybe has had a little bit of an injury or snake bite here and there, are gonna love these. Or someone that just wants a light, speedy shoe. For people that are really over pronators, like I said, even though they've got that, you know, really long shank in them, like I said, the E version of them, that's what's gonna be the crux of them. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. If you do wanna see another really sneaky fast shoe going to life, the 361 degrees Team Joker, I'll leave that video linked up above and make sure you subscribe down below. Yeah, respect, rubber, and foam. I'll see you soon with the Sneakerverse.